Wind here, welcome back. If you're working with ServiceNow and want to write cleaner, reusable code, this video is for you. Today, we're breaking down script includes. What are script includes? Well, a script include is a reusable server-side script that you can call from other scripts, like business rules, client scripts, or UI actions. Think of it as a function library. Write once and you can use it everywhere. Now, why should you use script includes? Why should you care? Essentially, when you use script includes, it allows you to avoid duplicate code, improves maintainability, centralizes the logic, and makes your code cleaner and scalable. So there are two main types to script includes, essentially on-demand, class-based, and client-callable. So essentially, the aspects to or the features to these two types. Class-based is the most commonly used type. It's defined using that class create function, which we'll go over in the demo, and essentially can be called from server-side scripts. Now, client-callable essentially can be accessed from client-side scripts, and there is a flag that you need to enable for it to essentially allow it to be client-callable. And you could use GlideAjax essentially for communication on the client side. And it must be marked as client callable, as we mentioned, and we'll go over that in a demo. So let us create a simple script include. So I'm going to go to script includes, and I'm going to open up this my util. So essentially we've created this beforehand just to showcase this. And essentially here what we've done is we've created the script include called my utils, essentially enable the class create for that, and then essentially create a function called say hello. Now say hello essentially returns hello and the name that we provided from the function. So we're going to ignore this comment for now because this is going to be required for when we do a demo on the GlideAjax aspect. But how can you actually call this script include? So let's call it from the server side firstly. So essentially I'm going to go to the background script and I'm going to write the following script. So essentially create a variable called util, essentially access my utils, which is essentially calling my script include. I'm then storing the response, so util.sayHello, which is my function, so calling the function with the parameter of my name, win, and essentially then printing out the message that it then comes back with from the response of the script include. So now if I run this, essentially what you see is the message hello wind. So that's how we call a script include from another server script. Now, how do we do it from a client side script? So let's go back to our script include, and essentially what we first want to do is edit this out. Now essentially what we're doing here is allowing the client script to pass this particular parameter back to our script include so we could essentially use it in the name. So if I just save this and then we go to our client script. So this client script we essentially created called hello person. This is defined on the instance table just to showcase this working. And essentially what we're going to do here is we're going to do it on load. So every time the incident essentially loads, it will run this client script. There are other different types like on change, on cell edit, and on submit. So essentially on cell edit is where you want to do any client scripts that are essentially from a list view perspective. On change, any change you make before you submit it. So if I was to change assignee or change state, essentially this client script could run. And then essentially on load, as soon as you open up the record, and on submit, essentially when you submit the record. So essentially what we're gonna do here on load, we are essentially calling my script, the script include, my utils, and then essentially adding the two following parameters. So we're essentially adding the function name that we're trying to call from the script include. So you can have multiple functions in a script include. So essentially we're calling the function name, say hello, and then essentially we're adding another parameter which is the name input, and we're putting in the name win. Now you can make this dynamic and get the user's name from the user record itself, but essentially we're just going to hard code it just to showcase this working very quickly. Now essentially then we get the response and we alert the response. Now this alert will essentially pop up a window essentially stating the response we get. So what I'm going to do now to showcase this working, I'm going to turn this on active. I'm going to save this. I'm going to go to an incident record. So now I'm in an incident record, doesn't matter which one, as long as you refresh or essentially load an incident, our script should work. So I'm going to refresh this. And what you can see here is popped up to say hello wind. Great. So let's go through some real world examples. So I'm going to do two different use cases to showcase this. So our first use case that we're going to go over in terms of a real world scenario is to validate a user. So we're going to check if a user is active when we assign a ticket. So before assigning a ticket, we want to ensure the selected user is essentially active. So let's go through the build first, and then we'll showcase how it works. So first things first, we're going to go create our script include. So we have a script include, we've called it user utils. We've essentially ensured that is GlideAjax enabled. Now again, this is crucial. On your script includes, you must make it GlideAjax enabled if you're trying to do any client callable scripts. So essentially ensure that is ticked if you are looking to do client side. Essentially here, same thing. We've essentially got our class create of our script include, and then essentially we have our function, which is user active. Here we are essentially storing the user ID, getting the parameter from this, and this will be essentially defined in our client script. We are then doing a server-side query on sysuser to check if that particular user, based on the user ID, is actually active. And then essentially, if they are, essentially it will return true or false here. And if we don't get any results, essentially we will just return false as a default, but should always essentially get a result. So let's go to our client script. Now on our client script, this is our active user check on change. So over here, we essentially define the table incident. We essentially can define if we want it to run on desktop, mobile, or all. Essentially, most likely you want to do on all, but we've done it on desktop for now just to showcase this. And then essentially the type. So as we talked about, we've got on-cell edit, change, load, submit. So for this one, we're going to pick on change. So anytime you actually change your signee, we want this to essentially pop up if the user is inactive. And then we have to define the field. So when you click on change, you essentially do need to define what field you want this to essentially run when that value changes on that particular field. Okay, so let's go through the script. So over here, we've essentially got our function on change, and this essentially gets loaded when you pick the type from the get-go. So you shouldn't need to worry about memorizing this essentially. Now, when we get to our script, we're essentially doing a GlideAjax object creation here, and we are calling our script include. And then we are passing the parameters. So again, we're going to pass in the syspalm name, which is essentially the function name, and then we're going to pass the variable syspalm user ID that we're essentially retrieving from our script include and passing in the value of the assigned to. And then we get the XML answer, so essentially get the response from the script include. If the response is false, then we will basically send out an alert to say this selected user is not active. So let us just make sure this is active. Let's save this. And let's test this out. So I'm going to go back to instance and I'm going to pick okay. So essentially now I'm going to pick a assign to. Now I know Akib is inactive on this system, so I'm going to select active Akib, and as we can see here, selected user is not active. Click OK. Now I'm going to change that to anybody else, so let's just do and we can see here it is fine. There is no alert because this particular user is active, and we can do a quick check here to see this user is active. So one more time, if we just change it back to active, we should see the pop-up. So that is use case 1. Now let's go over use case 2. So what we're going to do is essentially create a client script that stops users from creating duplicate incidents with the same short description. So once again, let's go over the build, and then essentially we'll showcase this working. So we're going to create a new script include, call it incident utils. We're again going to call it client callable, so GlideAjax enabled. And then in our script include, we're essentially creating a function, getting our parameter for essentially the short description, checking if there's one that exists, and then returning true or false based on that. Then our client script essentially is passing the function name into the script include, as well as the parameter, and getting the short description of the current form that we are on. And then essentially if the response is true, then essentially we are going to alert that there is a duplicate incident detected. One point to call out, this is OnSubmit, so essentially we're doing a different type here just to showcase kind of the different types and how they work. So now let's go and do a test. So essentially I'm going to copy this short description, and I'm going to go create a new incident. Okay, so essentially we could put anything here, and now when we essentially paste in our short description and we submit this, we can see that a duplicate incident has been detected. And that is essentially all the examples I wanted to show in terms of how we can use script includes as well as GlideAjax, and utilizing the functions and names from the script include to essentially provide client callable scripts, or also calling it from server side. Now let's go over some best practices. So essentially you want to use script includes for reusable logic, keep functions small and focused, use clear and meaningful names, avoid unnecessary client server calls, document methods for easier maintenance. Common mistakes to avoid: forget to enable client callable for client-side use. That has caught me out many times. Using incorrect method names in GlideAjax calls. So always check the script include, check the function name, and also ensure that you're always getting the right parameter from the script include and from the client scripts. Essentially you pass the same name. Not returning values properly, always check the type. Essentially, specifically when it comes to reference fields, you do need to convert that into string values if you're trying to display something or evaluate something from a string point of view, because reference fields will always bring back sys IDs. And also overcomplicating logic with script includes. So some scripts or some functions you can essentially do directly. Really you want to kind of just use it for the common scripts that you're going to reuse all the time. Now, script includes are a key component of ServiceNow. It promotes reusability, maintainability, and scalable code. By leveraging script includes effectively, you can streamline your scripting and improve overall application design. Now that's script includes in ServiceNow. If this helped, hit a like button and subscribe for more ServiceNow tutorials. Got any questions, drop them in the comments. Thank you. Bye.